Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Profitable Christian Business Podcast. I am overjoyed and pleased to have my friend Johnny Juan Ortiz with me today. Johnny Juan, you'll find, is an amazing person. We've gotten to know each other just a little bit, and we're going to find out a lot more about him here just in a few minutes. But he's a fan of one of my favorite things, which is tacos. I think there's even a little taco somewhere right behind him. But we're going to talk. We're going to talk about tacos. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about faith. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about a lot of things. But without further ado, Johnny, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Doug. Thank you so much for having me on here. I can't wait to get into the topics, to get into everything, because I mean, I'm telling you, it's one thing to really live out your faith in living color out loud with unapologetically, and when you're able to do that at a high level, it's amazing how many people are out there that you're actually inadvertently almost giving them permission to do the same thing. So thank you for having me on here, man.
Yeah. I I met you through a mutual friend of ours, and I was like, this guy is full of personality. He'd be a perfect fit to be on my podcast. If you're unfamiliar with Johnny, please go follow his socials. His socials will be part of the show notes below. But I think you do a live. Um, how often do you do lives, and where do you do them?
Yeah, so back in October of 2023, October 6th to be exact, my social media coach, shout out to Laura Wells, challenged me to go live. Now, like normal, I wasn't paying attention. It was a 7-day challenge. I thought it was like a 3-week or 30-day challenge. I misunderstood the assignment. So I just kept on going, and then I ended up talking to another coach, and they're like, "Hey, listen, we're starting to get into the holidays. That's when people need hope and encouragement more than ever. Just keep going." So we've been now doing it live Monday through Saturday, October 6th, 2023, a year and a half. We show up,
Wow.
and I remember another gentleman asked me. She goes, "They asked me if it was sustainable." And at the time I was doing it a year. I'm like, well, I don't know. We're a year in. I would say it's sustainable. Cause
Nice.
so yeah, we're a year and a half in, man. So I don't see any stoppage ahead. So we're just gonna green light it and keep going.
So on socials, are you on TikTok? Are you on Facebook? Where are you going live at?
Yeah, so you can go to the website johnnyjuan.com. You got my Facebook, my Instagram, you've got LinkedIn, you've got YouTube, you've got TikTok on there. I'm still playing around with X. I can't get into it, man.
Yeah. My plan is, if you're watching this, I plan on bringing Johnny Juan on for a live on TikTok with me soon. So I'll post about that, or it may be impromptu. Who knows? But just
Yeah.
follow both of us, and you'll probably find out about it.
I live in the land of impromptu, so I'm down.
Yeah, it's taking action, right? That's what being an entrepreneur is all about, right? Don't just think it, do it.
Absolutely.
You don't get the correct feedback unless you actually take the action, right?
Yeah. Fire, aim, ready.
Exactly. Great book. I advise everybody to read that book as well. Um, I like to start with some getting to know you questions, Johnny.
Yeah.
And it's fun getting to know you questions. And since we both like tacos, if your life was a taco, what would be the three main ingredients?
Man. Well, I'm a fan of pastor tacos, but if we want to go philosophically,
Yes.
I would say faith, infused purpose,
Mm.
joy filled service, and a generous sprinkle of laughter.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
a lot of people don't realize the benefits of laughter, which last year I decided to become a laughter yoga certified instructor. And it's amazing the health benefits that laughter has on an individual's mindset. Because as we were kids, there's a study out there that says that we laughed when we were kids like 200-300 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult, it's like 20, if that.
Wow.
So
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many studies out there about like just a positive mindset and all. Obviously, if you're laughing, you have a joyous or positive mindset. Um, like I think I've heard stories of people going through really traumatic health problems, And the difference of them turning around or not was God, number one, right? But also the mindset they had around it, right?
Yes.
So, love what you're doing, man. So, what's the most childlike thing that you still do that keeps your joy alive, other than laughing?
Man, I tell you, we just kind of touched on it. Impromptu-ness.
Mm,
There's another word out there: spontaneity,
mm,
serendipitous. You just never know when an opportunity arises. I think a lot of people call them challenges or problems, but with the right mindset, it's an opportunity. And there's a speaker out there. Man, can't remember the name. Anyway, he said that every problem has within itself the seed of its own solution. And he
Thanks for tuning into today's episode.
As a Christian entrepreneur, we want to give you something for free. If you go to clientsforthekingdom.com, we have an ideal client avatar generator on there for free. It's something that we've spent thousands of dollars on, countless hours out, and building out this structure of showing you who your ideal client avatar is and an offer stack that can work for your business.
Enjoy the rest of the episode.
probably got it from somebody else and he got it. But literally, every problem has within itself the seed of its own solution. So when you're presented with something, I mean, it's like when we were kids. And if you're starting to kind of pick up on the theme, it's all that childlike faith stuff that I'm going to be talking about. Is you figured out a way, right? Mom might have said no, so you went to dad. Dad might have said no, so you went to grandma. And what does grandma say no to?
Right.
But if you find, I think my mentor said it this way. He said, if you want something bad enough, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll make an excuse. But you can't do both.
Yep. The sign right behind me says you can have results or excuses. You cannot have both.
Boom.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, look at that.
There you go. Yeah, you find a way. I love that. Man, it's just amazing. I have one last getting to know you question, then we'll dive into some deeper stuff. So you're given 60 seconds on stage at a stadium filled with Christian entrepreneurs. What's your mic drop line?
My mic drop line. I would probably have to go back to what I talk about activating the childlike faith. And for some of the older kids, reactivating the childlike faith to be able to align their actions with their divine assignment, right? Our alignment with our heavenly assignment, and watch God literally turn your business into that blessing beyond measure, right? That there's not going to be enough room for it. And really, when you start to apply, I was just on a phone call with a lady. They do something called Beyond Business, and where they really activate faith in showing entrepreneurs how to activate faith in their business. And it's amazing how if we will just simply lean into Scripture. I 2 weeks ago I did a whole episode on Rabbi Daniel Lampin's book, Business Secrets of the Bible, and man, it is just packed full of scripture and promises and things that we just simply have to not doubt, not be anxious, not be worried about anything, but literally, right? We walk by faith and not by sight, right? Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence. You start to apply all these scriptures and all these truths that are in the Bible, and you can't help but be joyful. You can't help, right? Delight thyself in the Lord, and He'd give you the desire. Man, we can go on and on about all that kinds of stuff, but knowing it and doing it, two totally different things.
Well. Let's go down there. I apologize if you hear my dogs barking in the background. Somebody must
You're good.
be here.
You're good. Yeah, rest them feet up.
Faith over fear, right? We hear it all the time, and I think you just hit the nail on the head. Easier said than done. Like you can say it, but let's share with the audience some practical things that they can do to really implement faith over fear.
Man, on my episode, I've been doing this I call it Faith Your Fears Friday, where my goal of that episode is primarily to activate that childlike faith inside of the individual, to be able to charge the gates of hell with a half-loaded water pistol and know that you're going to get the victory. And it's basically using the sword of the Spirit, right? The offensive weapon that we've been given. And when you implement that word, when you start to really put that faith over your fear, you really got to go back, even using David as an example, where he had to encourage himself in the Lord. Nobody was around him. Everybody thought he was sick. Like, what's wrong with this dude? But he was encouraging himself in the Lord. And sometimes it gets dark. It gets lonely. You're like, God, is this really where you start doubting? You start, man, it's, but really when you think about it, it's just like being a seed. You've been, a lot of people think they've been buried, but they're not. They've been planted. And you might be there by yourself. You might be there on your own. It may be dark. You may feel isolated, but if you'll change that mindset of isolation to one of solidarity, one with God, getting your moment, your time with God alone, and asking. I got it. I stole this from Bob Bodine, a good friend of mine. I got his book, Two Chairs. But if you get in that room alone with God and just simply ask him those questions of, God, do you know where I'm at? Do you know where what I'm going through? Doug, yes.
Yeah.
he knows,
Yep.
right? And then you ask him the next question, is it too hard for you, Lord? No. Jeremiah says, is anything too hard? No, it's not. And then right in the same book, you can ask him, God, do you have not just a plan, but a good plan, right? And right there, it says that he emphatically declares that he knows the plans he has for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us, plans to give us hope and a future. And that's why whenever we coach and we train and we speak, we never give anybody hope without a plan, an actionable, implementable process that they can go through. And it's very systemic, very, very, it's right there, black and white. It's a plan. I do mortgage lending. It's now kind of getting mortgage lending on the side, but I do mortgage lending. And when we do construction loans, we have to look at the blueprint. But do you know how many people don't have a blueprint for their business or a blueprint for their life?
Oh my goodness. Right. Yeah. Wow. So I don't know if you've seen it or not, but this just comes to mind. There's a TikTok trend going around. It's a song that says it's something about anxiety, right?
Oh,
Somebody's watching me. I think that's of the devil, but because there's so many verses in the Bible that says we are not to be anxious, right? That he, again, knows the plan that he has for us, and it's to prosper us. So I guess I'm saying all this to say that we as entrepreneurs, like we are the risk takers, right? And we have to be that fueled with faith and not fear. You've never heard of anybody making a profitable business from fear, right? They've made it on faith. I was just scared and it happened. No, you proceeded, you were courageous and you were faithful and you did what God had called you to do and you stepped forward in faith each time, even though the odds seemed against you, right? And because you knew who was on your side. So anyway,
if anyone, viewers watching, your people, yourself, people if they're ever doubting what's going on in their life, Psalm 91 is probably one of the strongest, most powerful psalm you can read, right? And you can't read that without feeling encouraged, without feeling motivated, without you almost want to scream out at the end of it, are you not entertained?
Yes. I want to talk about this a little bit because I know you're a very positive guy, but there are plenty of entrepreneurs. And if you've been doing this for a very long time, it's not all mountains. There's valleys, right? I talk about this a lot. It's the joy and the struggle and your mindset in that valley, right? That there's a purpose for me being here and it's to make me better so that I can get to the top of that mountain, because without this refinement, if you will, that God has put me through, I cannot reach the top of that mountain. I think there's plenty of situations in the Bible that they had to go through refinement before they could fulfill the plan that God had for them. So
absolutely. And this is where I say that we're going to go granular. we're going to get to where the rubber meets the road. Because truth be told, yes, it's one thing to be positive. It's one thing to be, another person who they say, to not sound negative, they say that they're being a realist. Well, I'm not negative. I'm just a realist. That's just a polite way of saying I'm negative.
Yep.
I'm not apologizing to you, realist.
Yep. I see all the obstacles. I don't see the opportunities.
Yeah. And it's the food that we grow in the valley that's going to sustain us on the mountaintop, because nothing grows up there.
That's right.
It's in the valley. It's in the trenches. It's in the learning. It's in the failures, right? Who else would give up a comfortable 9-to-5, Monday through Friday, 6-figure job to go be an entrepreneur?
Right. It's not for the faint of heart. It is for the courageous.
It's not. I've been living on commission since I was 19. And my mentor said it this way: timid salespeople, entrepreneurs, have skinny kids. Not shaming. That was an old saying, but it's one of those things where you literally get out there and you have to know what you have to know, not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it, because those days are coming. Those challenges are going to be coming up, and you're going to doubt yourself. I'm not saying I don't doubt I still have a mindset coach. I still have a coach that I am being held accountable to. I have a physical coach that I just hired. We started working together about 2-3 weeks ago, and a little different. I've been coaching now officially since 2020, which is crazy that I even got into it right at the pandemic, sorry. And all of a sudden, they're like, no, you can't. Luckily, my coach immediately taught us how to pivot and shift to virtual, and it went great. We started doing a lot of that stuff. We started doing public speaking, but it was in that moment, in that valley, that the champions are made. That you really identify: are you really doing this because you have a calling, or because it's profitable? And don't get me wrong, profit is not a dirty word. It's a good word, right? Because I love what Justin says. The more you earn, the more you can give. And all of a sudden, you start to put all these things together, all these scriptures, all these stories, all these parables, and you're able to walk through it. Because a lot of people say, "Well, Johnny Juan, I'll rise to the moment. I'll rise to that challenge. I'll rise to the occasion." And we found out that's not true. You're going to fall to the level of your training. You're going to fall to the level of your discipline, because that's what you do day in and day out. Pressure really does reveal content. And I don't care who you are, if you squeeze an orange, I heard Wayne Dyer say this a long time ago. If you squeeze an orange, guess what's coming out?
The juice.
What's in there? Apple juice ain't coming out.
Nope. Yeah, discipline, consistency. I just got this visualization, because I'm sure this is what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs that don't proceed. Is that you have this little hill, right? You climb over this little hill. Oh, I'm doing good. And then if it's a valley, they're done right after that, right? And they're staring at that mountain ahead, but the valley's just too deep. And the why, I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit. It's your why, the why you're doing what you're doing, that gives you the ability to climb out of that valley and start proceeding up that mountain. Because if your why isn't strong enough, if it's just about being profitable, right, making money, right, then it's not going to be strong enough. It needs to be something, just a burning desire in you. A lot of people have different whys, but service just comes to mind. How many people can I help with what God has given me, right?
Absolutely. That's key, because I teach people in sales that you're only one conversation away from a totally different life. If you're in business, you're only one new client away. That one new client could be the linchpin to a whole litany, a whole slew of a whole nother demographic, a whole nother group of customers that's going to help boost your business. But because we are in entrepreneurship, because we are in essence living on commission, living by faith, and every day we're getting out there, right? you're only limited by your willingness to get out there and have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Make a phone call, send a text, shoot an email, make a post, make a social media post. We had a cancellation Wednesday. Weather here was pretty bad. We had a cancellation. In my calendar, I block off my church to leave, have Wednesday night Bible study. It got canceled because of the storms. It was pretty bad here in Texas. It gets pretty rough. But it's one of those things where I just went on social media. I said, "Hey, had a cancellation in my schedule. I'm blocked off till 9. Who's open to have a conversation?" Got a DM right away. We jumped on the phone, and before we knew it, man, we were exchanging encouragement. I think I got the better end of that conversation. I needed that conversation for myself. And before you know it, we're collaborating, we're putting things together. We've now got we've now got a plan in place to help each other's businesses grow and succeed and hold each other accountable. We're like, wow, that came from a cancellation. Yeah, I thank God for the storm.
Yes, that is such a great. Yes. The storm brought the opportunity. Wow. So I want to allude back to something that you were talking about, having a coach, right? And then somebody to hold you accountable. I think that is so key for no matter how far ahead you are, there's always someone further ahead than you, right? That can give you insights and help you avoid some of the valleys, some of the pitfalls that they have seen, that they have already gone through. So just give me your insights on how you feel about that.
I heard, man, I can't remember who I heard say this, but they said everyone needs a coach. And I started off with my main coach, and then I got a business coach, and then I was able to work in a social media coach, and now I'm got my physical mindset accountability coach. And having a coach, it doesn't, with the right mindset, it doesn't cost money. It pays. And the illustration I used this morning with the lady that we had an impromptu coaching session with was, Doug, if every time I gave you $10, you gave me 100, how many $10 bills do you think I would be willing to give you?
All of them. Yeah.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that every $10 I give you, I'm getting 10 and that's kind of what coaching does. I liken it a lot like the GPS in your phone when you're in the big city, right? You plug in where you're at. Well, actually, you don't even do that. It already knows where you're at. You plug in where you're going. It's going to give you a couple of options: the scenic route, the short route, the toll road. Coaching is that toll road. It gets you there faster. It accelerates your results, and it collapses your learning curve.
So let's talk about the term being coachable, right? Because I think this is where a lot of entrepreneurs fail too, is they get a coach, but they're not coachable. They think they have it all figured out, and that they don't listen. Like usually when you hire a coach, it's somebody that's already been to where you're going, right? And you need to heed their advice because and not think that your way is the better way. They've gotten there through the systems that they've implemented. They've proven that they've cleared the path for you, so to speak, right? So I just love your insights on being someone that can be coachable.
So that's really what I go for in every conversation. I usually started off, well, like I started the one this morning. Doug, what would make this a phenomenal, and I spell phenomenal a little different than most people, F-U-N, right? Phenomenal. What would make this a phenomenal conversation for you? And right off the bat, it tells me what they want to get out of it without being, well, how can I help you today? You know?
Yeah.
I am all about insight, because if I can get one insight, my coaching programs go anywhere between 6, 8, 12, 6 months, a year, lifelong, however. But if we can just get one insight that can change the mindset and the belief system, right? Because these entrepreneurs, well, I'll give you a perfect example. I just completed working with an entrepreneur. We've now become business partners and joint venture capitalists, so to speak, in an endeavor that we're fixing to start to unpack. But she came to me through a coaching opportunity, and she had a silent partner. She had a managing partner. She was a silent partner. She's 82.
Wow.
Uh, early 80s. Early 80s. She's a physicist. She's the last known person alive that was able to visit with Albert Einstein face to face.
Wow.
She met him at 8 years old, and that's a neat story in and of itself. Very intelligent, very smart, very capable. They were having problems with their business. I was able to come in as a business consultant, identify the problem, solve the problem, orchestrate and basically put together a buyout or an agreement that both parties agreed to. And I'll say this here, I don't know who they were, but it was just a conflict of personality, a personality conflict. That's all it was. And I had another client who said, well, I do mortgage loans, so I started coaching the low-hanging fruit, which is real estate professionals. And somebody told me one time, well, Johnny Juan, you're not even in real estate. You're not even a real estate agent. You don't have a real estate license. How can you coach me? I'm like, why would you want somebody that is just like you to coach you? Why wouldn't you want an outside perspective? Mm-hmm. And so being coachable is nothing more than you being willing to look at it from a different perspective that will give you that insight to help you come up and solve your own problem. Because Albert Einstein, talking about Albert Einstein, he said it perfectly, and I think people credit him or not credit him. I'm not sure who gets the credit for these quotes. But, right, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. What a lot of people don't talk about is the conversation, how it started. You cannot get out of the same problem you got into with the same thought pattern that got you there.
That's right.
Something's going to have to change. And it's just somebody like myself or you or anybody that can come in and give you an outside perspective that'll help you gain the new insight to help you solve the problem.
Yeah, and there's a reference there to next levels too. You can't operate with the mindset at this level and the systems at this level and expect to get to the next level. You have to start implementing new systems, new mindsets, new vision even, in order to keep proceeding up the levels. So I love that.
So we keep everything really simple here. It's the acronym for KISS. Keep it super simple. Keep it super simple. And we gamify everything. If you remember the video games we used to play, you started out small using Mario Brothers. You started out small, you gained some coins, you got bigger, you got your you got a bigger life, you got firepower. I believe that coaching is like when you get that star, that it gives you immunity, that you're able to just go right through that level. Because you're right, you're going to have to learn some things. And if you keep going through the same thing and you keep struggling with the same thing, stop asking yourself, why me? And start asking yourself, okay, what has this come to teach me? What am I not learning? Because again, just going off of what you've heard in quotes and cliches or whatever, but those who don't learn from the past are destined to repeat it. And the best illustration is that Groundhog's Day movie. You know how many people will say that they've lived 50 or they've done something for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, when in reality they've only done it once and have repeated it over and over and over again. Don't be that guy. Don't be that person.
That's what I love about the entrepreneurial life. Yes, there is some repetition in it, but every new day brings new opportunities, new things to learn, new ways to improve yourself. I love new problems. New problems mean new solutions, right? I think that's what you have to have the mindset around too as a business owner, is like you have to welcome problems almost. Please bring me a problem, because your clients are bringing you problems. The more problems you can solve, the more money you can make, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, Rabbi Daniel Lapin said it perfectly, that God is never happier with his children than when they're helping solve the problems of his other children. Now, thankfully for you and I, some of his other children got some messed up problems. Yeah. And we can come in and help solve those, because whenever we do the goal setting, we do a goal setting process with all of our clients that we go through, and we show them how to set goals, because so many of them have never been taught how to set goals. And whenever they're not of the goal setting mindset, we simply do a shift. We have a little insight. We move, we pivot, and we go to problem solving. It's the same 7 steps, but we go to problem solving. And once you identify you can't solve a problem you don't know you have. So once you identify that problem, you list out the benefits of solving that problem. Then you go through and you identify the blind spots or the obstacles that could hinder you from solving that problem. Then you identify the people, the organizations, the individuals that you're gonna have to recruit to help you solve that problem. What are the skills and knowledge and things that you're gonna have to learn and acquire to help you solve that problem? Then you come up with the plan, and then you give it a date by when, and all of a sudden, instead of being like a dentist where you have a DDS at the end, you come Doug Greathouse, PPS, professional problem solver.
Yep. You and I did not even know that about your coaching program. You and I align a lot as far as the goal setting. It is key, again, for business owners to have KPIs, to have goals, to have a marker. If you don't know what you're aiming at, you'll never hit it.
Bingo.
Right? And so many, especially beginning entrepreneurs, struggle because they're just wandering aimlessly. They're just moving forward with no direction. So
yeah, it's like the rocking horse analogy. I mean, they get up, they're checking their emails, they're making phone calls, they're burning calories, they're nonstop. Woo, man! At the end of the day, I didn't even get a chance for lunch. But you look around and you're in the same place you started.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We don't have that much time.
That's right.
We all have the same 1,440 minutes in a day, and how you invest those minutes matters.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be exact, but I think it was Kobe Bryant that said he tried to get 1% or 3% better every day, right? A lot of people aren't even doing that. But just think, it's compounding, right? If you get 1% better tomorrow, 1% better the next day, eventually you add 100 days, you're 100% better than you were 100 days ago, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I recently did that post, and 0.1% over the course of a year is 37% because you just round it up. So in 3 years, 1,000 days, roughly, a little bit over, all of a sudden, they say that, oh man, look at him, he's an overnight success. Well, that overnight success took years.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, right? If you want to, you don't have to be great to start. You do have to start to be great. Mm-hmm. And it just starts with making the decision. You're tired of living and doing the same thing over and over again. Something's got to give. And the way we do it, we use a big word. This is probably about the biggest word we use in our coaching, and it's legacy. We start with, what do you want to leave? I want to know, for my clients, I want them to be able to say and look at their timeline, and right here is when our paths crossed with Johnny Juan. Right here is where everything changed. Right here is when my mindset was, because I didn't plan for it this way, but my average client is in their mid to late 60s. I originally set out to help new real estate agents. And I got new real estate agents. I didn't know that they were going to be people who had done a career change later on in life. And so my youngest client, now I finally got somebody young. I say young, he's 22. But up until this client right here, my youngest client was 58 and my oldest was 82-ish. So I got really good with those baby boomers and all that stuff. Matter of fact, we're putting together not a retirement workshop, but a refirement. We're helping them kind of be able to take their experience that they've gotten all the way up until this point, find out their skill set, tie that to their primary motivating factor of what drives them, and then be able to build a business around what brings them energy. And so it's not about an ROI like we do an investment, return on investment. It's a return on energy, because they're later on and they're going to have to collapse it a little bit quicker. And what we're finding out is that when that really cute social media post that says, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. It's a cute post.
Mhm.
I reworded it, and I don't know if I read it, heard it on a podcast, or came up with it on my own, but I tell them, love what you do so much that you would be willing to do it for free.
Mhm.
Do it so well that people will pay you for it.
Mhm.
And so people are paying you for your past to help them with their present and develop their future.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love what you said there about energy, because often we think about time and we don't think enough about energy. I'm just going to kind of pivot this a little bit based on what you said, because I think we don't capitalize on our energy enough. We think we're going to schedule this stuff, but we need to do it in terms of where our energy is, right? I'm thinking about the mornings. Like, I like to work out in the mornings because I have the most energy then, right? And it fuels the rest. It gives me an energy surplus for the rest of the day. Um, Sometimes as entrepreneurs in time scheduling, they schedule some of the hardest things mentally for later on in the day, and they wonder, why did I not get it? Why am I struggling to get things done that will move me the most furthest ahead? So, any comments about that?
Yeah. Again, you have to identify, we call them, what's your energy vampire? What
Mm.
sucks your energy? And go ahead and knock those out when your energy's highest. When you feel like, Brian Tracy calls it eat that frog.
Mm-hmm.
Other Stephen Covey talks about put the big rocks in, right? Those are your non-negotiable. Those are the things that no matter what happens today, Doug, this got to get done. Because if nothing else, that at least you walked away, and it goes all the way back to the gentleman that started about make your bed, right? Because even if your day goes to pot, you come home to a made bed.
Yep. And I also I think some entrepreneurs get tied up in this getting their to-do list done, right? To me, the to-do list is never done because I'm always moving forward. So I'm always adding to my list, right? So I think it's important to make sure that you are relegating the most important things to the top, because your to-do list will never be done if you're an entrepreneur that is looking to continue moving forward. So it's
Yeah,
pretty powerful.
absolutely. Yeah, and the to-do list, it I think a lot of people do a to-do list and they try to make sure that they prioritize their schedule
Mm-hmm.
with that to-do list on their calendar, on their phone, however they want to do it. And in reality, what they need to do instead of trying to prioritize their schedule is they need to schedule their priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little shift in words.
Yeah, we use something called the 5 Fs. And that is faith. Schedule your faith time first. If you're a Christian entrepreneur, schedule that in first, because what's more important, your time with God or other things, right? And then you can flip flop this: fitness, family, right? Fitness and family, which second or third, right? To me, I think fitness, health is important, because you can't do the other things. You can't be with your family if your health isn't where it should be. So they could be tied, right? Fitness and family. And then finances. Finances is your business, right? So then scheduling your time for your business stuff, and then fun. What are your favorite things, right? Is there, and what you kind of brought to light to me, then what I'm thinking on the top of my head, there's no reason fun can't be intertwined all through that. So
Gamify it.
yeah.
Gamify it. The client I'm working with right now, she dreads making phone calls. She does life insurance and she's dreading making these phone calls, because she doesn't have a clear cut system. And so we gave her a system and we identified how much her commission is when she gets a sale, and we were able to define exactly how much each rejection was worth. And we call it rejection therapy. And so now you know that when somebody tells you no, get lost, beat it, scram, I hate you, go find a real job, go. Every time they do that, thank you for the $50.
Yep. Yep. Because yeah, I love that analogy, because it really motivates someone to get more no's, right? I know if I hit 5 no's, the next one's a yes, right? On
Yeah,
average.
absolutely. Right. And the way I described that to them and the way I described it to her is, if you take the word KNOW, Okay. The K stands for knowledge. The W stands for wisdom. If you remove those two letters from that word, you end up with no. And you haven't given them enough reason, knowledge, logic to get them to say yes, but you haven't shared with them enough wisdom, benefits to say yes. And a lot of times people don't change their decision. When they don't want something, they don't want it. What you have to do is give them more information and ask them again later. Now, with the new information that you've made, they can make a new decision because now your benefits, what they get in return, have now outweighed the money in their pocket. And I don't care who you are, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a service or a product that solves somebody's problem, you should go at it with everything you have to find a way to get them to say yes.
Yeah. We could dive quite a bit right there into product market fit, but let's hold that thought for a minute. Because if I don't ask this, I feel like you've answered it already, but it's a secret question. We have a secret question on every one of these episodes. So, and it's a clip, so I have to make sure that I ask it. What is the secret to building a successful business without losing your faith, family, or fun?
Man, the secret to building a successful business is I call it it's that Venn diagram with those three circles. You know why you do what you do. You know what to do, and you know what to do it so well that nobody has to tell you how to do it. The how, though, is I think where a lot of people get stuck. They overanalyze that, and if you're not careful, I'm going to be careful here. People tend to overanalyze things to the point that they focus on the first four letters of that word analyze, and they don't make they get the spiritual paralysis by carnal analysis, and then they don't do anything. We're old enough to understand that steering, the what's that called? It's hard to steer a parked car.
Oh,
so when
right.
power steering finally came out, okay, great. But if you're doing something, it's easier to steer a parked car, a moving car, than it is a parked car, and that's what we talked about early in the beginning. Action, take action, right? My mentor says it this way: logic will not change an emotion, but action will. Do it, and you'll feel like doing it. Because where those three Venn diagrams intersect, those three circles, right smack dab in the middle, some have said that it's your calling, your purpose, your passion. I call it your fun zone. It's where you're operating at optimal levels, and it's not work to you. You enjoy it. It gives you energy. It drives you. It motivates you to be able to go in there and know why you do what you do, and the how you do it just seems to come in different opportunities that maybe you didn't plan for it. But with the right mindset, all of a sudden, man, I love this. Bring it on. Bring it on. Wow, let's do it. And a lot of times when done properly, you're actually, there's a really good friend of mine in Chicago. She's like a serial entrepreneur because every time she solves a problem, she's able to create a new business.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then there's the next problem, right? I want to expand a little bit on what you said, where they kind of get analysis paralysis on the how, right? And it kind of intertwines back with action, right? A lot of times when you don't know what to do, right, and you go out and you just start doing, you start to get market feedback, right? And the market tells you the if you need a course correction or not, or the next steps that you need to take. Just action solves a lot of problems. You'll, at the very least, you'll learn something.
Yeah, it's the Thomas Edison thing. He didn't figure out how. He didn't fail all those times. He just figured out how not to make a light bulb. And going back to the analogy of the feedback from the marketplace, yeah, it's the airplane analogy. 95% of the time that it's in the air, it gets off course. It has to realign itself with your purpose. It's got to get, because it just gets off course. You and I in business, in calls, and we get off course, but we have to know what that number is. We have to know our analytics, our KPIs. We have to know those statistics that helps keep us in line, helps keep us in alignment with our assignment to what we were put on this earth to do. And whenever you're able to do that at a high level, you're rewarded handsomely by the community, by the marketplace. And so in the Bible, I can't remember where it goes, but it says that your gift will make room for you in the marketplace. And so what is it that you do? One other guy said that your skill, your talent is that which you do the absolute best at with the least amount of effort. And all of a sudden, if the marketplace is willing to pay for that, baby, you got a business right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome. And to kind of tie things together again, when you were using that plane analogy of going off course, how beneficial it is to have that radio control, that guy in the air traffic control tell him, hey, you're a little bit off course. That's the coach, right? It looks like you're going a little bit off course. Let's course correct and get you back where you're going.
Yeah, the GPS we talked about. I know you've probably never missed a turn. I do. But what does it do? It recalculates, recalibrates, it redoes it. And that's how you know, right? And I like these little acronyms, acrostics, game of words, play on words, whatever. But you can't grow if you don't know.
That's right.
But once you know what that number is, once you know how many clients, once you know how many social media posts, once you know how many radio ads, how many TV spots, how many drivers in front of your billboard, once you know those analytics, now you know what you need to do in order to get a new client. Because if you're in business and you're having to wonder where your next client is coming from, baby, you're already in trouble. You don't even know it.
Yep. Yeah. I want to kind of put it in perspective, like the timeline perspective of having a coach and not having a coach. Because I've known plenty of entrepreneurs, myself being one of them in the beginning, of not having a coach. How long is you're really lengthening your timeline when you don't have someone that can help you lead you down a path, right? And you're really shrinking that timeline. It all depends on what industry you're in, who your mentor is. There's a lot of variables in that, but undoubtedly, your timeline will shrink once you get a coach and you are coachable.
Yeah, I've heard it said this way. I think this one was John Maxwell. He said that you can't simply kill time without injuring eternity. And so the longer you put off making that decision to get a coach, it doesn't have to be me. There's coaches everywhere. I mean, the coaching business is now up in the billions of dollars. So you can find you a really good coach. There's some expensive coaches out there, but I think every coach is worth their weight in gold if they help you solve a problem. I mean, my coach said it this way: if you're able to help solve somebody's problem, or if you're able to help somebody's dream come true, what's that worth?
Right. Yeah. I want to kind of pivot a little bit to some questions about faith.
Okay.
So, what scripture has been your anchor in your entrepreneurship journey?
Easy. Easy. Well, there's actually a couple of them. The first one I would have to say is Jeremiah 29:11, where, right, I said it earlier, I know the plans I have for you. And then my mentor comes in and says, right, that you were born to win. In order to be the winner you were born to be, you first have to plan to win, prepare to win, and then expect to win. So I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And if you have hope in the future, Doug, what that does is that gives you power in the present, power to persist, power to keep showing up, power to keep. The saddest thing that I could think of, and I think there's a book on this one, is the 3 Feet from Gold. The people who gave up. Just, one of my favorite books is The Traveler's Gift from Andy Andrews. And in that book, there's a story of Angel Gabriel showing him around heaven, and there's like this huge warehouse. And he's like, what is all this stuff? What's going on? What is this? And he's like, these are all the things that God was about to deliver to the people just so they stop praying and believing for. And man, that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, what dream do what childlike dream, what childhood dream do I need to go over to the shelf and dust off? Whose childlike faith do we need to activate? Who do we need to get, right? Whose gift do we need to stir to fan the flame? Who do we need to come in contact with? And so my prayer every morning is, Lord, put me in contact with somebody that needs to meet you today, that we need to help them solve whatever problem they're facing with. And so I'm no longer surprised by who God puts in my path. I'm just like, let's go, baby.
That's right. You said a key word in there that I kind of want to highlight: expectation. Right. I think a lot of people get this part of faith wrong. They pray to God wishes with no expectation. Right. If he's such a good God, we should of course it's going to be to his will, but we should expect it. It says so in the Bible. Like I pray for wisdom all the time, because he says in his word that he will give wisdom to anyone that asks of it. It's an expectation. Yeah. I'm not wishing for it, God. I know that you said you would give it to me.
Yeah. He's no respecter of person. He gave it to Saul. He gave it to Sam. He gave it to anybody. He'd give it to you. Now, my only prayer now is, Lord, give me some hair.
No. Yeah, I'm with you too.
No, I'm just kidding. But it's one of those things that when you have a solid relationship and you get in the morning and you have that prayer time with God, and you do your devotionals, and you review. I do my journaling, and I'm thankful for this. I'm grateful for that. Gratitude opens up a wealth, 1 Thessalonians 5:18, right? That in all things, thank God with that, right? That's the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. There's so many things. There's so many scriptures that you can go to. The other scripture that I go to is John 10:10, where I think that's where a lot of people get deceived, or a lot of people fall into this trap, right? Because the enemy comes to do only one thing or three things: to steal, kill, and destroy. And a lot of people don't finish reading that verse, because immediately following in the red letters, it says, but I have come that you may have life, and life more abundantly. And that life, LIFE, is an acrostic in my Fun Life coaching that stands for living in freedom every day. And so what would that look like?
That is awesome. Johnny, I feel like I could talk to you forever. I have because this is one place I want to get to, and we are getting close to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Relationships. Let's start first with that. I love that you highlighted the number one relationship is a relationship with the number one person, the Jesus, right?
Yeah.
But just give me your insights about building relationships in business and how key that is for you.
So this is a real easy one for me, because all of life and all of business is about relationships, that relational equity. And that's where I think a lot of people don't realize how close they are to having a successful business. My goal at the first of the year was to go through my contacts list and call every single person in my contact list. Now, I made that resolution before I'd counted them.
So you're more popular than you thought.
There's 1,200 people in there. I didn't realize I knew that many people, but there's 1,200 people in there, 1,200 contacts in there. I've made it through the D's. I'm getting ready to go into the E's, but in just calling them, I'm like, hey, Doug, hey, this is Johnny Juan, man. Hey, listen, I know it's been a while, because some people won't call because they're like, what am I going to tell them? Don't think about it. Just dial. Mm-hmm. Smile and dial. Mm-hmm. Hey, Doug, this is Johnny. I know it's been a while, but listen, I'm going through, I explained to him what I'm doing, and I just want to catch up. See how you're doing. How's your family doing? How's your work going? Hey, listen, if there are any goals, if there's any way I can support you and help you out, man, I'd love to connect with you. Or I'll shoot them a text or an email or something. Some of them have thought it's pretty weird. Some of them haven't returned the call, but that's not me. That's not for me to decide. My only objection is to my only instruction was to call, and so I'm just being obedient, and that's another thing. Mm-hmm. I'm just obeying what I need to do. Right? If we'll discipline ourselves to do the things that we need to do when we need to do them, there's going to be a time that's going to come that we can do what we want to do when we want to do it.
Yeah, man. Want to dive just a little bit here. I want anybody that's listening or is watching this, rewind. There's a golden nugget right there. And if you feel like you're struggling in your business right now, just do what Johnny Juan just said. Go call every one of your contact lists, because you may think, oh, they don't want to speak to me. I haven't talked to them in forever. And you'll be surprised at where God shows up in those conversations. It may not be that Betty Sue like remembers you, but when you call her, she's like, maybe I know someone else that needs what you're doing. Let me refer you to her, right? It's not always a direct connection, right? There could be a reroute, right? So
Yeah. Yeah,
and
there's an old law. It's stated the law of 250. Now this was before social media, but the law states that the average person is going to have anywhere between 250 people to 300 people either at their funeral or at their wedding. Now it's not important how they know those 250 people, but that those 250 people know another 250 people. And so all you've got to do is establish that relationship to be able to let them know who you are, what you do, why you do it. Because people don't care what you do; they want to know why you do it. And for the most part, you're good. You're faith driven entrepreneur. They want to help you succeed. And so by you going, I call it Grand Canyon deep. By you going Grand Canyon deep and not superficial across the board with those relationships, you only need a few of them. You know, the last guy I read about had 12 people that helped him spread his message all over the. Find your 12. Find your tribe.
you know what I also think is funny is that there are plenty of entrepreneurs that have never reached out to past clients to get referrals.
And that's where, oh my goodness, that's a whole other thing that we teach on is your repeat clients or your referral clients. You're missing out a lot.
Yes. So there's been like 20 golden nuggets in here, but that's the second most recent golden nugget is if you have past clients that you've done well for, why not go back to them and say, hey, I'd love a referral, right? You'd be surprised how your business grows from there.
Yeah, yeah. And for the clients that we coach, we actually set up a system to automate that because really, if you think about it, I learned it this way: system is an acrostic, right? Saves you stress, time, energy, and money. And if you want to pluralize it, you can add another S for sanity.
Yes. Johnny, I feel like I'm going to have you on for a second episode because, again, we could talk a lot, and I think there's been so much value shared. Tell people a little bit more about what you do and how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that I do. The one that I'm really excited about right now is that entrepreneurial coach where we go in and we really dive into what they want, right? Help them really kind of reach their goals in a much accelerated timeline without all the pitfalls. And we're able to do that with the business coaching that we do. If you want to connect, you can go to johnnyjuan.com. You can find me there. You can go to funlifecoaching.com. The links will probably be down there somewhere. But let's connect on social media. I do a social media live every single morning, Monday through Saturday. I do Monday morning mindset, motivational mindset Monday. I do a transformation Tuesday, a win this day Wednesday, thriving thankful Thursday, faith your fears Friday, and tomorrow we're doing something to smile about Saturday.
Wow.
So you can find me on social media if you want. I'm not going to be hard to find. I promise you'll see something there.
Wow. I love it. And I will have you, so stay tuned. If you're on TikTok, I'm going to get Johnny Juan and me on a live on TikTok. We'll do that. And we'll just, I think one of my favorite things to do on TikTok now is just start to build community.
Yeah.
Just bring people on and let's have a conversation, right? Especially when it's around faith and the Holy Spirit shows up. Oh my goodness. That's happened recently on TikTok and it's just been amazing. So anyway,
love it.
All the links for Johnny Juan will be below. His website, his social links, all of that will be below. Make sure you check him out. If you need some direction, it sounds like he can really help you get moving in the right direction. And in a fun way. It's not going to be just whipping you all the way.
I tell people we have to go through the fear to get to the faith to get us to the fun, but getting to the fun is serious business.
Nice. I cannot leave without asking the question that I ask every entrepreneur before they depart. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for anybody watching?
Man, yeah. Just remember, integrating your faith into your business isn't just possible, guys. It's powerful. Embrace your God-given purpose. Lead with love and let your joy be your compass, right? Right. In the presence of the Lord, there's fullness of joy. At his right hand, there's pleasures forevermore. Let that joy be your compass, and your business can not only be profitable, it'll be purposeful. And I'm telling you, that's where the fun happens.
Nice, nice. Thank you again, Johnny. And until next time, entrepreneurs, keep moving forward in faith. All right. Thanks for checking out the Profitable Christian Business Podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.